Here we go. Hello, you are watching On the Town with Tanya. Thank you for coming back again this week. We appreciate you. This week, I'm really on a comic phase this week, so we have a comic with us today. He has been with Second City. He has performed sketch, improv. He's performed all over the tri-state area, and he is the producer and creator of Divorceland on YouTube. I believe that's correct. Please welcome Richard Duggan. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, Tanya. Yourself?
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We
pleasure.
really appreciate you. Oh, that must be the window open in the back. That's what I see.
Yeah.
One thing
it's about 110 here.
Where are you at?
Well, Rockland County.
Oh, Rockland. Okay, yeah, it's hot over here too. But at least you got water, right?
I have water.
Right. You have water. Water helps a lot. What do you call it? So we had you here today. I'm so excited that you're here with us. I'm just loading up something. All right, quick. Let's see. There we go. There we go. So you've been doing comedy about how long now?
I did it back in the 90s, in the early 90s, out in Los Angeles, California, all around Southern California, a little bit in San Francisco. I did it for about 3 years in the early 90s. And then Second City came to Santa Monica from Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I took a class with Del Close. Okay. The improv master guru, and that was a total 6-year detour of doing sketch and improv. Wow. Jeff Machowski and his wife Jane Morris, they opened up a storefront theater a stone's throw away from the Mayfair Theater where Second City had set up. Mm-hmm. There was a problem with the management at Second City, and I think it closed down permanently after that, but they opened up this storefront theater called Up Front, and I became a member of one of the house groups there. Nice. With Andy Dick. And that was like a 6-year-long detour. Then I moved back to New York. I met a woman. We married. We had a child, and I became a civilian. And when my daughter graduated high school, I was no longer coaching sports and being a chaperone. And a comedy club opened up right in my hometown of Suffern. And I thought I'd put together a tight 5, and I've been doing it now for about 6 years.
Nice. Wow.
So it was a 25-year-long absence from doing stand-up.
Wow. I mean, that's I took a break for a while, and especially during the pandemic, like 4 years. I mean, I was doing Zoom, but that doesn't count. Well, it does now, but it didn't at that time. Is Second City a part of Upright Citizen Brigade, or that's just where the concept comes? Because I went there.
No, I don't think that. I mean, I think people have taken classes at both.
I thought maybe it's different. Maybe it's different. I have to look that up.
I had seen. I saw some shows there. I forget the name of that guy who runs it. It's got a long last name. Nice guy.
I can't. Don't let me tell it. I'm the worst.
They closed though, didn't they? During the pandemic, didn't they close shop?
They did. They had a lot of things going on, but then they closed and then they reopened. Now I just heard they reopened. They just sent me emails. They reopened again. So
okay.
Yeah, but it's good. It's good. It's just as good as Second City. It's a good school. At least I learned a lot, and it helped me a lot. Do you find transitioning from sketch to stand up? What do you find the difference?
I got back into doing stand up just as a challenge of just, you know, you're able to, it's a one person show, you know, you're able to write your own material.
Right.
And you're not dependent on 5 other people.
Right.
And I don't know what, you know, they had at Rhino, that's the club in town. They have sketch and improv shows. But I was quite reluctant to do any improv really until recently. And I went to an improv jam, and I've done about 4 or 5 of them, and I've kind of, it took me a while to have the courage to start doing improv.
It is courage.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I guess, you know, because I'm not a young man anymore, and I thought, you know, shit, I'm going to be on stage with, you know, with 5 other, you know, 24-year-olds, and it's, you know, it's just going to be a kind of thing where, like, you know, hey, Grandpa, can you help me with this plumbing job? You know, and I thought, like, I'm just going to be the old guy in this,
right?
But it's really not that way. And I've been having fun, but my primary focus is stand up, and you know, and putting together, you know, I'm starting to put together clips, you know, like just, you know, comedy bits. I'm trying to become technically proficient. I'm about to take a class. I want, you know, I mean, I graduated college with a degree in film and theater.
Oh, wow. So you have an idea. You have a good idea how to put stuff together.
But I, you know, I'm not, you know, we were talking about it before the show. I'm not technologically proficient in editing videos at all.
Really?
And
I'm surprised. You'd majored in film?
Yeah, but that, you know, that was back in the dark ages.
Me too, but that's the one thing that helped me, even though I'm not great at it. But if you put me on a program, let me tinkle around for a while and make me keep doing it over and over again, I'm gonna get it real good. But it's because it's so foreign that I haven't used it that I'm like, I don't know, wait, I gotta post this here. I gotta look at the timeline. It's too many things to do, but it can be done. You know, it can be done. If you've done film, then you have an idea of the timeline sequence and how to put things together. That's the most important part, I think.
Well, I'm booking this. I'm booking these like lessons with a friend of mine. Who, I mean, I have so many clips on my phone, on my camera. I mean, I haven't put together a sizzle reel for Divorceland. I want to take Divorceland into larger venues where I can pay the comics a little more. And like, you know, like 55 and above condo communities that have a budget for entertainment. They'll usually have a band. But they oftentimes will hire, you know, a comic to come and, you know, for entertainment night. And I would like to bring my show, you know, to venues that can accommodate us, and, you know, try and get 100 or more audience members instead of, you know, 70, 150, 200, you know.
Make it a bigger thing. I think you can do it for sure.
Yeah. So I'm trying to put together a sizzle reel, and I've filmed the show. I think we've done it about 8 or 9 times, and I've filmed, you know, 3 or 4 of them. I had a professional guy come in and film us, so I've got all sorts of, you know, clips from the show to put together. That's kind of my first goal now. To put together like a 3.5-4 minute sizzle reel for the show, with, you know, all the bells and whistles and whatnot.
Yeah. How did you come up with the idea specifically featuring divorced comedians?
Well, I was divorced, and I don't know, it becomes a, you know, it brings you the lion's share of the material you're going to see at a comedy show is, you know, relationships, dating, you know, domestic life. It really covers the same spectrum as a regular, you know, night at a comedy club. But there's a little bit more of a, of a importance of a, of a theme going on with divorce.
What?
And I, my goal at the beginning was to have comics who are divorced, are rough, like, kind of like fresh from the fight, right? I don't want, I've been approached by a number of comics who will say, I'm divorced, you should put me on your show. And I'm like, you're happily remarried. He's like, yeah, but I did get divorced. It's like, that's cross purposes, I think.
Okay.
I want people who are more raw and a little bit, have been, emotionally damaged to a certain degree by
more better comedy.
Yeah, by years of domesticity gone south.
Yes, that's the unique perspective that the divorce comedians probably bring to the stage over others, I guess, right? Is that they're fresh wound. So
and I look, I have a very amicable relationship with my ex, and I mean, I do a bit on stage now where I say that, I'd even go so far to say that I'm friends with my ex. And I was telling that to a lesbian comic in Manhattan recently, and she said, oh, well, I'm friends with all my exes. In fact, my friends are friends with all their exes. It's kind of a lesbian thing. And as of June 1st, I learned something about myself, and that is I'm identifying as a lesbian.
Have you noticed?
Which is ironic because after 20 years, I kind of drained all the heterosexual joy from my ex. And I know for a fact that she's dated a few women. So I'll have LGBTQ forces that be, that my heterosexual marriage created two lesbians.
As they would say, well done. Have you noticed any reoccurring themes or topics that divorce comedians tend to joke about?
Pensions, my friend. I think there's not too much. The stories about infidelity are kind of are not as common as I would think they would be, in that infidelity causes most, relationships, marriages, to go the route of divorce, just statistically. I haven't come across comics that come from that, betrayal.
Right.
There have been a couple, but really just a couple. And I think it's, and I don't know the half of it I think people might keep that closer to the vest. I don't think they like talking about it in public as much as we go over other subjects of, domestic life.
Yeah, I was going to ask what challenges do you think the divorce comedians face in the industry, and how does your show address the highlight of these? So like what, I'm sure there's, like you said, some things they don't want to talk about, and it could be awkward sometimes when you talk about people in there if they're in the audience or they've heard your show. They're like, that's my truth. I stand in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult dating at after becoming divorced, and especially as you progress in age, there's certain habits that you're not going to lose.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, age. Let's talk about that, because that's a big thing. I'm starting a group with people 55 plus comics. That's what I'm starting a group with that, because it is a challenge in itself, even though people don't say that, and you can get booked. There are many challenges. People do discriminate. So if you look your age, they do They do. They don't say it, but they discriminate. I do. I think so. And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay because that's the good thing about comedy. As long as you got your audience, nobody cares. You know, you can
Yeah,
find
well,
your audience. Who cares? We are
I
the
mean,
audience right now. It's our age group that's gonna buy the tickets.
yeah, I mean, I talk about that I talk about being, that my Bumble profile, my age profile is 55 till death. And that's the toughest age category.
55 till
Uh,
death.
yeah, you can borrow that time if you want.
I like that. My Bumble.
Um, yeah, it's because you're are you realistically looking for someone to settle down with and possibly get remarried to and live domestically at a certain age?
Right.
That's not really
Realistic.
kind of on the horizon for most of the women that I meet who are 55 plus.
Yeah.
It's really they're looking for a friendship first. And I'm happy to say that I've met a number of women who I'm friendly with, that I'm friends with, that come to my shows. I've got a woman in my Divorceland show,
Mm-hmm.
and we met on a dating site. And but we quickly realized, and she's got back into comedy after more than 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
um, and uh, and we spoke on the phone probably a half dozen times before we even met. And the first time we met was at a showcase that she did at the Comedy Cellar,
Oh,
Rick Crumb's class.
okay, nice.
And it was an invited audience, friendly invited audience, like the graduation show. And
Right. Ringer.
yeah,
The joke.
and and she was quite good, and she had done comedy. She had been passed at about a half dozen Manhattan clubs and
Wow.
Long Island clubs, and was a working comic for a bunch of years. And she's getting back into it, and I went to see the show, and like I said, she was really good.
Okay.
And then she introduced me to these pockets of people, and she'd say, this is my friend Rich. We met on Bumble. He's a comic, but we're not dating. This is Rich. We met on Bumble. He's a comic, but we're not dating. And after
Right.
about 3 times of being introduced, it was I started to hear in my head, in my damaged brain, this is Rich. We met on Bumble. He's a comic, but I wouldn't fuck him. That's what I began to hear in my 4 times concussed brain, right?
Right. Oh
And
no.
and I'm glad to be friends with her. It's
Yeah, we find
it's
our way.
cool.
Yeah, we find
Yeah.
our way. And we always do. But I think it's awesome. You got to do what you got to do. Can you share like a memorable moment or like a story from one of your shows that really resonated with the audience?
Yeah. I don't know if you know the female comic Monique Latisse.
Yes.
Kind of do you know her?
Yes. I know. I don't know her personally, but I know who she is.
She's great.
Yeah.
And she's been the MC, and she's headlined the show before. And that's kind of why I want to bring it to larger venues, because I need to cover her quote, her headlining quote. And she was doing a show, and we have this woman, Sam. She's fairly new to comedy, but she's really raw. She's very funny. She also has been, has a tale of, and she's happy to talk about it, of being cheated on by both of her ex-husbands.
Yeah, we all know those stories.
Yeah, and she was doing a show. She was at the beginning, the show had really just began. We had this very drunk woman in the audience right at the beginning, and I think Monique was doing her opening monologue, and this woman was stepping over people to get to the bar and was very loud. She got to the bar, and you could hear the bartender saying, "Miss, you've got to lower your voice. This is a live show. This is it's like, I know it's a live show. I'll be quiet." And and she got her drink, made another scene getting back to her table, and then was talking throughout the show. And then people were shushing her, right? And she became quiet. And I guess about maybe there was 3 comics who came up. So it was about 40 minutes into the show. And Monique turns to the woman and says something like, "Are we cool now? You're all settled down. You got your drinks?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'll show you how cool I am." And she stands up, walks to the stage, and kisses Monique on the lips.
Ew.
Right?
Oh,
yeah.
No, violation. Violation.
That is assault. But
that's violation.
Monique took it in stride, and the woman went back to her seat, and Monique looks to the audience and says, "Oh my God, am I a lesbian now?" and it got a great laugh, and it was just kind of how you turn a huge personal violation into the most memorable laughs of the night. It just brought down the house, because she turned this what should have been immediate ejection from the club into she saved it. She could have refused to go on. She could have sued me, I guess, and the club for assault, but she completely was a pro and knew how to take this turn of events and make lemonade out of it.
Even if she has to be paranoid the next 5 years about what could be on her lips.
But I know.
Oh, I don't know what I would have did, but that was the most professional thing to do.
Yeah,
that's a pro. Yeah, that's a pro.
Yeah,
it's a hard thing to do. How do you select comedians to perform in the show? And what criteria do you look for when you book a
well,
comedian?
like I said, I want people that have been emotionally affected in negative ways, and that I want them to have stories about that. I want them to have progressed through it, and like Al Felony, Al Feliciano, he goes by Al Felony. His he does a bit where he says, my ex told me we were I forget how the bit goes, but it's like, my ex and I, we were polyamorous, and she told me we were polyamorous 2 months before we got divorced. and she took, both of his kids. I mean, he went from being married with 2 kids who are teenagers now to being a single father with his kids living in Las Vegas, and against his will, I mean, she basically moved with the kids, and I don't think he had the financial ability to fight that, you know. And he talks about it, about the vast change in his life, and kind of the reason why he's doing comedy now. And he's another guy who did comedy back in the day and is doing it again now.
Yes. Yeah. If you were born to do it, you can't escape.
Sorry?
If you were born to do it, you cannot escape it. You try to put it down all the time, but it never works.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know I don't think there's a time limit about when you were divorced. Like, it doesn't have to be recent. My friend Dana, she's in the show as well. Now, Dana happens to be married. She's been married. I think she got married for the first time at like age 54.
Wow.
She was single up until that time. She's happily married. However, her parents divorced when she was like 6. They both got remarried.
Okay.
And then both got divorced.
Oh.
I think both of her sisters' marriages ended in divorce. And then there was some other odd thing. So she calls herself like an observer of divorce, that she's, she held back. But she had all of the attributes that I was looking for in the theme of divorce,
You're really sounding like a film director right now. That's what it is. I think you're directing the big script, the big thing of it.
Yeah. Vernita Bostic also, I approached her to be in the show.
Okay.
And I don't know if she was ever married, but her boyfriend of like quite a few years died in his sleep. The love of her life died in his sleep. And
heartbreaking.
And she talks about that on stage. And I asked her to be on the show because she was divorced by the forces that be. It wasn't, by the elements of human life, that she was divorced from her, the love of her life, not by domestic problems, but by a higher power, And she originally was booked on the show. And then I don't know if it was because of that, but she took a leave of absence from comedy, and she's got an open invitation to be on the show.
Okay.
As you do.
Thank you.
And so those are outside of the box reasons, to thematically tie to divorce. So,
but I see where you're going. It's like to me, if it's not just fresh, but if it's something that really hit home for them, and it does always, but I know what you mean, that raw hit home, like it feels like it happened yesterday, even if it was 5 years ago. There's some people that's still in it. The joke will sound way different to me coming fresh out of it, or having that fresh memory compartmentalized and then creating a joke. I can totally see it.
In the first 2 shows we did, I had a woman on the bill whose husband had a second family.
Okay.
Right. In a different state.
Okay.
That she found out about.
Okay.
And there were, I think he was wanted on federal charges or something. And then there were private investigators involved and all this insane, serious stuff. And she talked about it the first time on stage, working it out. He was funny, but it was like serious shit. And And the second show she did, she completely bypassed that story and started doing crowd work.
Mhm.
And I came up to her afterwards and I said, why didn't you talk about the show?
Right.
And she says, I've been told I can't talk about it in public. I can't. So, I didn't ask her back because she can't, she had this great tale that, about felonious behavior with her husband and she got her kids back, but the husband, I think, was arrested eventually. I
Yep.
mean, he was on the run from the law.
Oh my
And she,
gosh.
I was really, really involved, but
Yeah,
she
she
can't.
probably couldn't talk about it for a few reasons.
Yeah, no, there's liability involved,
Yeah.
and investigators and so yeah, that was a hardcore example of someone, and she was it was pretty memorable the first time she talked about it. She got laughs, but it was like serious stuff.
Right. I can
But then,
imagine. But she's
yeah,
coming from her place of truth. So to me, as long as it's your place of truth, I'm okay with it. It's how we develop it into something funny. That's the hard part.
yeah,
Very hard part. I mean, George Carlin to me was a master at it. Like, so I'm sure he didn't want to spend his time talking about politics and how dumb we are. But
yeah.
he does the best of insults that anybody I know can do, in a way that makes you say, excuse my throat.
Yeah, no, but there
Wait a
are
minute.
very few. I mean, I'm quite political, and I try and do it because I think the country's in dire straits.
Yes.
But I
It's a
don't know.
fine line.
By and large, I find the whole comedy scene these days, at least in the circles I travel in, to be kind of apolitical. I mean, and calling, making fun of Joe Biden's, age and his, and his demeanor and his slow walking, that gets more laughs than any Trump stuff. And
And that's
I find
sad.
Trump to be so unctuous and so deplorable a person.
Yeah. Yeah, I
That
find it crazy to me. Aren't they
Yeah,
about the same age anyway? They're about the same age. They're not far apart.
they're
It's just that,
3 years apart, and
yeah,
and Trump just expels this brain vomit. If there's no
that's a good
rhyme
brain
or
on.
reason, it's just junk. It's just word vomit,
Yeah, it is
and
oral
it's
diarrhea.
so it's just regurgitated stories. And when Biden speaks clearly, he gets to the point. And he's had a lifelong stutter,
Right.
but that gets more laughs. That him, like someone doing an impersonation of Joe Biden. They'll be on stage and they'll here's my impersonation of Joe Biden, and
Right.
they'll turn their back to the audience and then walk towards the brick wall and bang into it, and that
Yeah.
gets a huge laugh compared to anything that is Trump based. It's and
No,
I
I know why. I know why. It's just and I mean I've laughed too. So there's a lot of stuff that I laugh, but I laugh at both sides. But for me, the part is that I often forget is what are we laughing at? Are we laughing at Joe Biden? Or are we laughing at senior citizens? Because we're all going to be one of those one day.
yeah
Very soon. Before you wake up, you're going to be one of those. And no matter how young you might be, young 20, thinking, oh, I'm just popping it. Trust me, you're going to be, before you know it, they're going to say, oh my God, I'm 60. Wow.
yeah
And now,
I mean
see how it feels when people discriminate.
yeah exactly. And I mean, I challenge myself to do political humor, and and my way to do it is really, it's almost sideways, where I will say, I mean, I do one bit where I say, so I began working out again. I rejoined my gym. I don't have any illusions of getting 6-pack abs at this point. because
Right.
I've got kind of a post-dad body, but
His dad.
my goal really is I just want to outlive Trump. That's
Good
my
luck.
health goal.
Good
And
luck.
I guess Donnie Fat Tits got indicted for 34 felonies, or convicted of 34 felonies. I think now he will officially go to hell. And I don't know if I'm going to go to hell, but if we both end up in hell, I'm kind of picturing hell to be an open mic, and Trump is the MC, but he never lets anyone else on stage. He just carries a clip. He carries a clipboard on stage with him, and he just makes fun of people's names and comes up with dumb nicknames for them. And he just talks about how he got a raw deal by being sent to hell, and that, you know, he considers God a personal friend, and he doesn't know why he's in hell, but he's going to talk to God, and he kind of blames Jesus for being against him. And he says, I think it was, you know, he just complains about Jesus being the reason, and he's got some connections down in hell, and he's going to talk to some people, and he says it's you know, that he got rooked, that he shouldn't be in hell, that he was framed, and you know,
you need to do that into a sketch, please. I need that as a sketch. I need that totally as a sketch. Like, totally. That's hilarious. I do a bit on hell and that, but that's great. That's a great bit. That's great.
I know. I'm still working on it.
Please do that as a sketch, a cartoon, something, because I could see that totally live.
I just, you know, I apologize. You know, I got to get the Trump voice down, and I can't. You know, it can't be that difficult. But
no, it's not.
I've been told to just say, like, you know, like, this is my impersonation of Trump. It's not, it's from hell, so it doesn't have to be completely accurate. And if you don't think it's accurate, you know, go fuck yourself. You know, I don't know.
Go talk to Satan.
Yeah, go talk to Satan.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff. Some comedians stay away from political stuff, but I think that's just because they want to be safe. But to me, as a comedian, our job is to observe what is in our life and what is going on in the world, and interpret it. That's our job, I thought, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
So I don't shot if the time is right or the place is right, I'll do it. I don't like to. I'm not one of those a fan of pissing my audience off, though. So if I'm in a bunch of Trump loving audience, well, actually, no, I do have Trump jokes that are funny and still on my side, but they don't make it so bad. You know, like I talk about his hair and my positive affirmations and stuff. So there's ways to do it. There's so many ways. I don't criticize any. Whatever works for you, do it. Just don't teach my senior citizens. That's all I say.
I made the mistake. I had a I do like fire district gigs in various places where it's a pretty working class crowd. They're good. They're a good crowd.
Right. That's the best.
But they're got to be relatively clean. They'll say, you know, oh, don't worry about it, but you got to be somewhat clean. And kind of, I made the mistake recently of doing some Trump material, and I knew as it was coming out of my mouth, like, oh no, what am I doing? What am I doing? I should have known better to not go there. And I quickly pivoted when it was silent, and you know, and I'm sure it was, you know, a 50-50 audience, but the 50 that were Trump, they were silent, and the people who might be, you know, Democrats, they were kind of like silent too, because they knew that there were, you know, Trump people in the crowd.
Yeah, it's like, don't identify yourself or you'll be penalized. Personally penalized.
As it was coming out of my mouth, I could feel like, why am I doing this? Why am I going here? You know, and
because you probably in your inner self probably knew, like, ooh, the little. So we all have that little rebellious streak as comics.
Well, I did the thing about wanting to outlive Trump. That was and it was met with like kind of some groans. Well, not
I know.
silence. Like,
I know.
It was groans, and then I'm like, oh, okay, and I kind of made fun of the fact that I brought it up, and then quickly pivoted
to something else. Yeah, he has a cult following. So whenever I have friends and family members, actually one of my friends I stopped speaking to, and then we started speaking again. So I was like, we don't need to be fighting over somebody you don't even know. I never even officially met Trump in my life. I've done a fashion show on one of his in the Trump Tower, I think it was years ago. But but I never met him, so I really shouldn't probably judge someone until I met them.
I've never met him. But I've been at half a dozen, events, clubs, right. A Rangers game. I was at a Rangers game, mm-hmm. and we had good seats. Mm-hmm. It was the only Rangers game I was ever at. Mm-hmm. And, like 20 rows back in the middle of the field or the rink. Mm-hmm. And Trump came in with like 3 other guys and sat directly below us. I mean, I could see his fucking stupid straw hair right there, right? Like bang, bang. And they sat there for about 2 minutes. All they did was talk. The heads were like this, just pivoting back and forth. Then they all stood up, walked back down, talked to somebody, and then they got like courtside seats. Yeah, like those seats weren't, these top A level seats weren't good enough. Trump had to make
he only went for publicity. He likes golf, first of all, so he only went for publicity and to make the guys think like, you know what, one day I'm going to need these votes again. Let me get in good. I mean, there's a million reasons why I can imagine why he went. So it's okay. It's all good. That's a part of being who he is, and in that line of work, unfortunately, is you do a lot of how do I say it? Playing around and pandering, I'll call it.
I was at a club once. I think it was like, this is in the 80s, and I think it was like Danceteria or.
Well, I know Danceteria. Really, you might have known me. Seriously, I was there all the time. Danceteria, the World, the World, Nels. Okay, are you kidding? I worked with.
The World, downtown. The World was fun.
Carmine's, which is unheard of by many people. You had to give a password to get in there. That was down by power. Yeah, all of them.
And Heartbreak on Varick.
Heartbreak. That one I never frequented, but that I've heard of it.
It was a like a diner during the day.
Oh.
And then they moved all the tables and chairs out of the way, and it was a club at night. It was open quite a few nights.
Actually, I might have had a party there. I have a flyer. I have to look at my flyer and see if it says Heartbreak. I don't know why. I know that name from one thing, but nothing where I hung out regularly. Just I know that name. I want to say. I can ask my friend.
I don't know where I was. The World was downtown at that it was on a corner.
Yes.
Club, right?
It's been like near years. We're both. This is when we know how old we are. We're like,
It was near Astor. It was near Astor Place,
Astor
right?
Place. Yeah. It was down there.
Anyway,
somewhere.
I was at a club once, and I was talking to I don't know if it was a friend, but whoever I was talking to, said, shit, Trump's here. And I'm like, really? And I looked around and Trump was there with a, entourage.
Was he with Epstein?
No, I don't know. Possibly. It was a long time ago. And whoever this was said to me, well, this place is no longer cool.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
And I think that was
PR. PR. It's not. We're there because we want to dance and enjoy ourselves, and we like the nightlife. He's there only sheer publicity. That's it. And the reason why we know, because I'm sure there was a picture taken somewhere of him.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what that's about. But anyway, enough of him. What was I going to ask you? Have you seen any changes in the comedy scene? And maybe even like regarding how divorce and relationships are portrayed over the years?
Well, I mean, like I said, the themes,
Hmm.
unless you're an observational comic, which I'm not. I'm producing this show next Friday. And I don't have the fly. Wait,
I'm going to actually put that flyer up on my Facebook page. If anybody's watching, I will put it up so that people can see it, because you gave it to me, and I meant to put it here so people can see it, but I promise I'll put it up on my pages.
Well, let me. I've got to read it because I don't know it by heart. Oh, 1 sec.
That's okay. Just 1 second, guys. And while you're waiting, I'm in a show July 13th at the Doubts Ferry Library. So make sure you come and see it. It's free. Email the library, Doubts Ferry Library. Look for Tim Deary's show and sign up, okay? Because it's free. Okay, it's 7:30 p.m. July 13th.
Okay. Here's the flyer.
Okay. Yep. Okay. There, basements. The good. The what?
And we're calling it The Good, the Bad, and the Cringy, starring the Too Much Information comics and
TMI comics.
The TMI, right? And everyone on this, 2 people are in the divorce show. Oh, 4, including myself, me, okay. Al Felony, Cynthia, and Sam. So there's 4 of us.
Okay.
And it's I kind of got the idea from Al Felony, who I think he even coined when he was on stage, saying like, this is too much information, right? And I just got this idea of a sidetrack idea for a night of comedy, where you're just learning stuff about people. It's just kind of the opposite of observational humor. It's right. it's like a deep dive inward about the very personal, stuff, which you can also derive, humor from. Mm-hmm. For sure. And I think as far as like, the scene, you're talking about relationships, you're talking about sex, you're talking about dating, and it's all like encompassed in divorce.
Right.
I think.
All the challenge.
And
all the challenge. And then over 55 or over 50.
Yeah. So, I mean, I look, I like a good Spirit Airlines joke too. But it's really not my forte. I mean, I actually did one recently. I said, so I flew Spirit Airlines recently, and everyone makes fun of Spirit Airlines. But here's a fun fact. They will take 30% off your airfare, but you have to bring your own lawn chair. And it, got a good laugh. But if you've ever sat on a Spirit Airlines seat, it's like a torture chair. It's just, it has no padding at all. It's like, you sit in, it's like, are you kidding me with this?
We'll get you there. We didn't say how.
Right. It's
if
like,
you're lucky.
Just put some egg carts or
Yeah, that's hilarious. I think that's hilarious. What advice would you give to inspiring comedians, maybe who've gone through the divorce and want to incorporate that into their comedy?
I was listening to somebody talk about this one comic. I think it was pretty well-known guy, a New Jersey guy. God, I can't think. I'm blanking on his name. And he said he does. And he's 70 plus, and he still does. I was being told that he still does 250 shows a year, and I was like, yeah, 250 shows a year. And I did the math on that, and that's roughly doing 4 shows a week. And when Jody had her show, that Zoom show, I was doing that on a weekly basis, and that brought me to 4 shows a week. So I was like, I do 250 shows a week, a year as well. Sometimes I think more. I don't think it's as necessary to the quantity of the amount of shows you do isn't as important as writing and just coming up with more material and being prepared to, I take, we do Zoom writing shows on a regular basis, and that's performing as well. And my next goal is to do, these taped, bits. I'm going to be in this show, I think, in 2 weeks, which is a popular thing. And it's basically improv stand-up where you get 4 topics. Okay. And the 4th one is your final joke. So you just got to do it right off the top of your head. And
we used to do that. Lightning rounds, we call them. Lightning rounds.
Right. It's a 1-person improv stand-up show.
Nice. Nice.
And TJ Miller, is that his first? TJ Miller?
I think it's
TJ, right?
That's
TJ. I think it's TJ. Anyway, he did a show, I think it was on Comedy Central. And I think his got 2 million views, and he was very, very funny. Wow. And he's been participating in that. But I think it's a separate thing on Comedy Central, and I forget the name of what they call it. Ready, Set, Go, maybe. I don't know, but it's improv on the spot, and you get disqualified if you start to make your subject part of your regular act. If you get a subject to make a joke about, if you include your act and somebody calls you out on it, you get DQ'd.
Wow. Sounds interesting.
But I don't know. But I got asked to do that. But I just think and my friend Alex, he opened for Colin Quinn recently, and up at Laugh It Up in Poughkeepsie, and so he was able to open up for Colin Quinn, and in between the Friday night show and the Saturday show, Colin Quinn said, I'll come in a little bit early tomorrow, and we can go over your material. And so they sat for a good hour, apparently. And at one point, Colin Quinn said to Alex, how many nights a week do you go up? And, Alex works full time and, tries his best to get up as much as possible. But he says, maybe 3. And he felt bad saying because he doesn't live near Manhattan. Right. He, lives up in, I think he's all the way up in Putnam County.
Right near past me. I'm in Bedford. Yeah.
Yeah. You're northern Westchester. I think he's in Putnam. He might be in Cortland or somewhere.
Yeah. Something like that. Wait, go ahead.
So, he felt like, ooh, am I, disqualifying myself by saying only 3 times? He says, that's fine. What really matters is that you're writing You know, that's as important as going up on stage.
Okay.
Because, you know, like our show last night was canceled because of poor ticket sales we had. Well, I think we sold 4 seats, but only one person and then a couple of friends of the comics showed up. So there's going to be the comics in the crowd, and then 2 or 3 paid customers. And that, you know, I've done shows like that, but you know, sometimes they can't. You need a little more people. You know, if you've got the comics and then just like 2 or 3 people in the audience, it's not your material that you usually get is not going to land, and it can be damaging, I think, to the confidence that you have in the material you're going to do, because you're going to do your set 10 minutes, you know, because you know, and so we canceled the show, and instead of just going up and like, you know, wow, you second guess your jokes. If you're, you know, if they don't hit, and it's like, you know, you lose a certain amount. So
you do.
You know, I would say to comics, to write, you know, and to do, you know, and to start putting together, you know, short videos of whether it's you in front of a backdrop, you know, just to the camera.
I used to record myself every time I did a set anywhere. And that really helped a lot.
Yeah.
Because you go back and listen, and now you know what a sympathy laugh is, what a real laugh is, and when it's dead air and why. And you can really tailor the joke better, I think. I love that.
Yeah.
Any kind of recorder, your phone, doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah. And it forces you to get rid of unconscious things that you do, like filler words.
Me.
You know.
I did that.
That helps a lot. You can excise those.
Yes. Well, you can look at.
I also think one thing that I will invariably do, if I can choose where I go in the lineup, I'd like to go in the middle. If you know, if I have any sway, like if at an open mic, I'll if there's like 15 spots or 20 spots, I'll put myself at number 10 if I have that choice. If I'm on a bill, I'll take I'll pay particular attention to the MC's opening 10 minutes and the first comics, and I will choose 2 or 3 things from their acts that I feel I can contribute to, you know, that I can add on their jokes. And it's something, because it lets the audience know that you've been there, you've been paying attention, and it's almost like free material. If you can, you know, because if you come on cold, it can be a little bit startling. If you just, you know,
and weird, especially if someone just said something, dropped the bomb on something, or said something that was really, really prevalent that everyone was thinking about. It's like you didn't address the elephant in the room, which was
exactly. I think that that's free material. And I sometimes will get caught. Like I'll try and fit in like 5 or 6 things that I've written down. You know. Oh, and by the way, John, you know, when I do, and after a while, it's like, just do your fucking act now, you know?
Well, because that's, for me, the thing is, I'm still a new comic. I'm only 9 years in, take away 4 for the pandemic. So whatever that is. So you know how that is. You're just comfortable with the stage now, and you're starting to really write jokes now. And so when you have 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it's like, that's all you get. So now I'm like, do I want to spend 3 addressing what I just had, and then I'm going to cut mine down to 6? You know what I'm saying? That's where if it's worth it, I'll do it. I had one time where it was hilarious because a guy insulted, I call it African Americans, basically, about our names. You know, he was talking about how he was so much, yeah, you know, those names like Shaniqua, and he looked like a farm boy, by the way. He had the overalls, like the hat and the whole nine, straw coming out of his mouth. I mean, so I don't know where he got this. I was like, you don't even get off the farm. Like, how are you gonna make these jokes? I let him go. He went into like the other's name, Shaniqua. Yeah, those are really awkward names. You know how people name their kids that, blah blah blah. So then I happened to be right after him. So and this is when I was new. I had no clue what I was doing. I was just guessing from what I learned from Manhattan Comedy School, and so my daughter was like, "Don't get mad, get even." So I was like, "Yeah." So I went up after him, and it was perfect. And they said, "And coming to say, Tanya Cooper," and I was like, "Yeah, you were expecting a blonde, weren't you?" And because my name's Tanya Cooper, I mean, you don't expect all this. So anyway, I went into that whole set, and I got nothing but laughs because all I did was tag everything he said. So it worked in that case. That case was worth giving up the whole set for, and it worked. So it was luck, but it worked. I wouldn't normally do that, but sometimes you got to address the elephant in the room. Because if I hadn't said nothing, and now the black girl comes up after this guy, it's like you didn't even address what he just said. Are you out of your mind? Like it would be weird. So got to know when. But anyway, time is up already, and I know you've got things to do. Any last piece of advice besides write it down, write your jokes, and get out. What else?
You know, enjoy it. You know, you got to fight back when you've got to, you got to let things go. If you got to lose envy about, like how they get booked on that show. You got to let that shit go. Yes. You can't get caught up. I mean, I went to a gig recently and I wasn't invited on the show, and I've put him in 3 paid gigs,
right? And
I wasn't invited onto his show, and but I can't. I'm I don't say anything. I'm not gonna. It's apparent, and right. I was talking to Chip about it last night, and it's like I can't believe he didn't put me on the show. Right. It wasn't even.
He could have had backup favors to do for. Maybe that's why.
Yeah,
because I saw that happen once where someone thought it was because they were just forgetting them, and it was not. They were just like, these people have all put me on shows. I'm taking the list as I go down. I hook each other on, as I go. So it was honestly just because they had like 15 before him, that person.
Yeah, I mean, I did. I went up to Connecticut, and this was involved with a date. I've had disastrous scenarios with dating and comedy, inviting dates to comedy gigs. I've got.
Well, you're looking for a funny lady.
Me and this woman spoke like 3 times at length, and she was a huge comedy fan. And she kept on mentioning this brand new club, a 250 seat house. I think it was in Stamford. Brand new comedy club.
Yeah.
Brand new. And I, after we got off the phone, we spoke on a Monday night, and I looked it up, and I saw that they had an open mic on Wednesday, and I texted her on Tuesday, and I said, hey, I signed up for the open mic at 7:00 on Wednesday. You're welcome to join me. And hopefully it can work out. And she writes me back and she says, oh, that's great. I'll come and watch you. And I left early on Wednesday and, worked in the Bronx and drove up, what happened was early in the day, she texts me back or texts me and says, I'm not going to be able to make it up to Stamford. I won't be able to go to the club tonight. I've been seeing somebody else, and I really want to focus on that.
Wow.
And I wrote back and I said, you could have told me before, yesterday that you rather, because I wouldn't have come to the Bronx and whatnot. And I didn't mind driving to Stamford and doing that open mic and seeing some friends. I got no problem with that. I will drive long distances to do comedy and see my comedy friends.
Right.
That's it. What I wanted back was the 4 fucking hours that I spent talking to her and self-promoting, and I want those hours back. That's what upset me about that, because I don't mind going to do comedy and driving, and that's another thing. When you're driving, go over your material. Just say it out loud.
That's a good one.
Get into the practice of doing your jokes out loud. You don't need an audience,
No, that's true. Good. That's good advice. I really appreciate that. Any last words? Because we got to go, and I know you got to go. I really appreciate you for taking the time.
No, it's my pleasure. I wrote down your gig at the library.
Yes. July 13th. So, July 13th, Dobbs Ferry. Yeah, Dobbs Ferry.
I wrote it down. Is that an
awesome
open mic?
No, that's a show. They have Tim Deary has open mics all the time, and his are the best because he records them and sends you your piece. So they're the best online, the online ones and in person. Yeah, Tim Deary.
Yeah, he's pretty well known, Tim Deary.
Yeah, I love Tim. He's awesome. He's amazing. I just finally met him in person last week on a show. He did a show. So I'm happy that I met him. But it's a circuit of us, and we have to link up together, especially as 50 pluses. We have to look out for each other because it's a rough world out here. These 20-year-old comics, they have no mercy on us at all. But
I know.
I love them. I love them. They keep me sharp. I'll tell you that. They keep me very sharp.
It's also like when I go to open mics with all the 20-somethings, it really forces you to be on your toes, because if you don't want to look down and see 25 20-somethings on their phone, you better keep your material nice and fresh.
Yes.
You
better
work on.
You have to adjust to that. You have to know how to adjust to that age group. As I played for a college once, and we just so happened to all the older comics killed it, and the young ones didn't. So it was hilarious because we knew right away. I said, "This is my specialty. I work with adolescents, so that's my specialty." Young people are my specialty.
You get used to doing these shows for young people, and then you do a paid gig, and you look out in the audience, and they're like, 40 to 70. It's like, perfect. this is my crowd.
Right.
They're going to be in the palm of my hand.
Yeah, I love it. I like any age group now. I actually performed in London at the Top Secret Comedy Club. That was fun. A couple of times, actually. That was a lot of fun because I love international audiences as a comedian. You know how we have a little devilish side, I said, where we're like, let me see if I can make them laugh, especially if you bomb and you want to come back. That's like the best feeling for me right now. It's like, let me see if I can make it back. So when I hear an international audience, I feel the same way. Like, let me see what I got internationally going on, and then by laughs or no laughs. So I enjoyed that show so much. But thank you so much, Richard Duggan. And where can we watch Divorceland on YouTube?
Eventually, yeah. I don't have.
Right, that's right. We're working on the. Mm-hmm. Okay, so eventually you have to watch it. So.
I'm gonna, I mean, I also I did produce New Joke City. That's on YouTube.
Ooh, New Joke City. I never heard of this.
New Joke City TV.
Joke City
on YouTube.
Okay.
New Joke City. I own the domain. There's a landing page on newjokecity.com, and we're gonna do. Basically, it's busking in New York City public places.
Okay.
Busking comedy, and we do interviews. They're long interviews, but we're gonna. It's my idea to start doing some of those this summer.
Okay.
And I was reminded because I was I was paying GoDaddy all this money for websites. And when you said you paid $250, I realized I've spent in the past like 3 years like $3,000 that I didn't know I was paying for GoDaddy for all this, you know, web development.
You could have wrote that off. You probably didn't even write it off.
I know, but luckily that domain, New Joke City, is worth $1,500. So
nice. I like that name. I love that name.
Yeah.
Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. Well, let's see what happens. You keep us updated. You're welcome to come back anytime. Again, I appreciate you so much. And I will take your flyer and I will post it to my social media pages so people can know the show's going on. Okay.
Okay. Cool. And, all right, Tanya. Thanks for having me.
Hang out with me for 1 second before we do the music and go. But guys, I just want to remind you, sign up at plausible.com. Leanne Linsky created a great site for comics to go and practice online. You can create your own shows all for free right now, and you better do it while it's free. You can create your own shows, paid or unpaid. It's up to you how much you want to make. Best part, audience members, you can go sign up. All it takes is an email. It's not like they ask for your mother's information or your firstborn. They just ask for basic email. I think that's about the most invasive thing, if you want to call it that. But it's easy to sign up, and you get to watch shows for free. Why not? Duh. You know, except for the paid shows, and you have to pay if it's a paid show. But you get to do it and take full control. Sign up, plausible.com. Okay, check it out. I'm just saying it. It's a free plug because I love Leanne. All right, and check out Richard Duggan, and we appreciate you, Rich. We will see you guys actually today again at 4 p.m. with Nicole Spain. All right, all righty, bye. So let's see.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see you. Hang out with me for a minute, Rich, while I close. Okay, ready?
Yeah.